medical author and a clinical instructor at the University of Louisville School of Music, Medicine. Dr. Fox is also a former and still occasional talk show host. His commentary can be heard on the former Reagan Education Secretary Bill Bennett's national radio show, Morning in America. He has hosted the show with Bill Bennett, who likes to call me Dr. Marty. So, direct from this last call to Dr. Bennett, here is our speaker today, Dr. Marty.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to shake everyone's hands. And, Glenna had a lot of foresight when she invited me to speak a couple of months ago, because she knew this was going to be the day after President Obama had his big press conference where he was going to tell doctors like me to ask you whether you have any guns at home, how many, and where are they. So, next time you see your doctor, breast exam, whatever, you're listening to your chest, doctor, I have this terrible cough. Do you have any guns? Where do you keep your guns? I'm going to get back to that later, because that's a very serious thing, and we're going to talk about it. But listen, it's an honor to be invited here, and I want to begin by telling you about my parents, because it illustrates a lot of important points about our country and what's happening. My parents were Nazi concentration camp survivors. Okay, they were able to survive because they were very defiant. And one of the stories my mother used to tell me was that, the Nazis would line everyone up in the yards and decide who was healthy enough to work. And if they didn't think you were healthy enough to work, they killed you. You went to the ovens that day. And she would prick her finger and rub blood on her cheeks to look healthier. And they did a lot of different things like that to manage to get out of there. Now, when they got out, they came to this great country. They came on a boat, on a little boat, through Ellis Island. And they had nothing. They wanted to be Americans. I was born in New York City. You hear a little bit of my accent. I have a real birth certificate. I've got the hair and the beard, so I can infiltrate any left-wing group. And so they came here, and they learned how to speak English. They didn't know how to speak English. They found jobs. They went to work. There was no welfare. They didn't expect anybody to give them anything. They didn't expect a free home. They worked hard. They bought a home. They didn't expect free health care. They were able to accomplish this because of our freedoms. Free market capitalism and our founding documents, where our rights come from God. They don't come from man. They don't come from Nancy Pelosi, President Obama, Joe Biden. We live under the rule of law, not the rule of man. And nobody can take them away, even though some people are trying. Okay. So, the history of human civilization is dictatorships, genocide, monarchies. We're one of the exceptions, at least up until now. We have been one of the exceptions. And our system has created more wealth and prosperity than any other system in the world. And it does it by unleashing the human spirit and letting people do what they love to do. So now, for the past 5 years now, we've had a president and a party that wants to change that. They want to transform America. And, one of Obama's slogans during his first campaign was a change you can believe in. What he really wants is change from what you believe in. Okay. And so let's talk a little bit about what we believe in. And I think I speak for most of you when I say that we believe in limited government. We have a constitution. We have enumerated powers. That's it. Smaller government, bigger people. Big government, small people. Okay? What do they believe in? And what are they trying to do? Huge government, nanny state, welfare state government. The government takes care of you cradle to the grave, and someone else pays for it, like you. That's if you make it to the cradle. Now, I'm sure you heard Joe Biden say when they're talking about guns, even if we save one life, it's worth it. Well, they can start with Planned Parenthood. You have one abortion every 95 seconds if they want to do something about life. We believe in personal responsibility. They've got society's fault. There's always some other reason. The person's never responsible. Okay? We believe in a strong military. We have a lot of enemies. More than ever. They want to shrink the military. They have contempt for the military. You have this sequestration right now that they want. They want to cut the military. And it looks like they probably will do it. Okay. Okay. Now, we believe in life. They embrace the culture of death. And here's what I mean. Abortion's fine. Letting a baby born alive was fine with President Obama. Die. Let a baby born alive die. They have death panels in Obamacare. There are real death panels. We can explain it if anybody wants to understand it. So, we believe in free markets. They have a top-down crony capitalism. Their buddies get the deals. A lot of it fails. Most of it fails. In fact, there isn't a system, a socialist system, that doesn't eventually fail. Now, we have a constitution. We believe in that constitution. They think the Constitution is a living document, which means they can change it for, whatever's convenient. That's the way they treat the Constitution. They actually have contempt for the Constitution. Obama said, the problem with the Constitution is it limits what the government can do to you. Okay. The Constitution is a limit on the government, not on the people. The founders just escaped a tyrannical government. And our Constitution limits what the government can do to you. They don't like that. And they're doing a good job of ignoring it, too. So let's talk. You'll recognize these patterns if you pay attention to the news, and a lot of you do. Let's talk about how they go about changing, transforming America. And there's a repetitive pattern, and you will recognize it, because first of all, you always need a crisis. And if you don't have a real one, you can make one up. So you need a crisis, and then they have to intervene in this crisis to fix the crisis. And that always makes the market fail. Those are interventions that the market would never do on its own. And when the market does fail, and we'll show you how that works, the problem is there's not enough government. That's always the problem. So now the answer is always more government. And they've been doing this repetitively for years, even before Obama, but now with Obama it's on steroids. Because nobody wants to be called a racist if you disagree. So let's take Obamacare, for instance. They told you that there's 47 million people without insurance. It's not true. That 47 million people are people that are eligible for Medicaid but didn't sign up for it. Those are illegals who probably shouldn't get insurance paid for by you in the first place. There are not 47 million people without insurance. And they rammed this thing through. And now we have to live with it. Now, Obamacare is designed to fail. It's designed to fail, and I want to explain what that means. They really wanted a completely government-controlled system. But they can't get that. They didn't have the votes for that. So they created a system that is guaranteed to fail. How is that? How is that going to fail? There will be a doctor shortage. Why? Because they added people into the system and there's no increase in the number of doctors. Because the Medicare reimbursement levels are going down to the point where a lot of doctors won't see Medicare patients. You're going to have trouble finding that doctor. You know, they told you, you know, people ask me how Nancy Pelosi can say, you have to pass it to find out what's in it with a straight face. And I tell them Botox. So now we're finding out what's in it. So how else is it designed to fail? And you'll see how this is all related. Obamacare gives the HHS secretary 1,300 dictatorial powers. For instance, she sets the insurance premium. She tells the insurance company what they have to cover. She tells the insurance company how much profit they can make. She tells the insurance company how much money they're allowed to spend on advertising. With those rules, it's not hard to put the insurance company out of business because they decide how much profit you can make. The reason the premiums are going up, I mean, if you look around, premiums are doubling in some places, is because they are telling the insurance companies what to cover. And as somebody who's 65 doesn't need pregnancy coverage, but you got it. Now, they are making the insurance companies cover this whole menu of things, whether you need it or not. So you cannot customize your insurance. You cannot go out and say, I need this, I don't need that. No, everyone's got to have everything, and you have to pay for it. Okay. So you have a system where they will eventually put these insurance companies out of business. How do they do that? You know, people will say, there'll be a big outcry at some point. In fact, this year, a lot of people are realizing what's in these plans. And they're going to be complaining, why are my premiums so high? And what will Obama do? What will they do? They will blame the insurance company. They're not going to say, oh, it's my fault, I did. No, of course not. It's the insurance company. It's those greedy insurance companies. It's those evil, greedy insurance companies, the doctors. They don't want to see patients. And we just have to take the whole thing over. So that's the plan. And if anybody doubts it, we have a YouTube video of President Obama explaining this to a union meeting, that this is this plan, and they expect it to take about 5 or 10 years to get to that point. So they create a crisis, they create an intervention, they make the market do something it would never normally do. It's going to fail. They blame the market for it, and the answer is more government. Talk about the housing market. Okay? Many of you may know what the Community Reinvestment Act is, but this actually started under Carter, on steroids under Clinton, where they purposely gave mortgages to people who couldn't afford to pay them back. Now they want to blame this on Wall Street. They forced the banks, they, Democrats, Janet Reno, threatened banks to give these mortgages to people who couldn't afford them. And eventually, they couldn't afford them, and you had the bubble burst. They blame Wall Street, they blame the lender, it's everybody's fault except theirs. And honestly, our Republican leaders not doing a very good job of educating people about what it's really about, even today, and we'll get to that. So this is the pattern. This is the MO. This is what they do over and over again, even with guns that we're going to talk about. They create the problem. They blame the market, the institution, the church for the problem. And then the answer is for them to take it over. And they've been doing this very successfully. They've been doing a very good job of it. And we have not been doing a good job of opposing it or even educating people about what it is that they're doing. Okay. So, let's, and by the way, this is of course with the help of the media. Most of the media, and they're in bed with them. It's not, there's really no journalism. The label I like to use for that media, I like to call them prostitutes. These people are literally in bed with them, and this is going hand in hand. It's a campaign, and I watch them to see. I'll turn on MSNBC. I turn on to see what the White House talking points are. If you want to know what the White House talking points are, and you want to see what they're doing and saying and what they're planning, watch that. So, let's get to the issue of the day. Let's talk about guns. And this is a very big issue, and you'll see why. Okay. First of all, before we talk about Sandy Hook and this horrible massacre, it's important to first understand what the Second Amendment is about. The Second Amendment is about two things. Number one, it's about defending yourself against your own government. Now, when you say that, when I say that, people look at you like you're from Mars. What are you, afraid of your own government? Your government would never do anything to you. You shouldn't be embarrassed to say that. The history of tyrannical governments, Hitler, Mao, Stalin, there's a long list. Even the slaughter in Rwanda was preceded by gun confiscation. All of these tyrannical governments. Now, there's a sequence. They all follow the same sequence. First, there's the anti-gun propaganda. You've heard that for the last month. They talk about the prostitutes. They all have the same talking points. They all have been demonizing gun owners, legal gun owners who haven't done anything wrong. Then they want to come up with some kind of registry. we want to register these guns. We just, we just want to know where the gun, who's got gun, blah, blah, blah. They need the registry so they can confiscate the guns. Now, it's illegal right now for the federal government to have a registry. A background check is not a registry. But they're trying to do it, and we'll talk about what President Obama actually did yesterday to try to get a registry, which a lot of people haven't really discussed. So this is what these governments do, and you say, well, what would they ever do? Well, if 5 armed people come to your house in the middle of the night, if you're a political opponent of the administration, what are you going to do? Now, you may not be able to overpower them, but we have a lot of people that are armed, that feel very strongly about this, and it's going to be very messy. And people are going to find out about it. And it's become a very big war if people are armed. If you're unarmed, you're a slave. You're out of luck. Now, let's say you think this could never happen. And the truth is, it might never happen. You have countries where, they have strict gun laws and you don't have this tyranny. So it's not a guarantee. It doesn't mean that's going to happen. But you're asking people like me, you're asking us to trust a man like President Obama, who will let a baby born alive die, who let 4 heroes in Benghazi die because there weren't enough guns, because he wouldn't defend them. And we're supposed to trust a man like that to be looking out for us. So, human nature has not changed in the last 60 years. So if you ask someone like me, anything's possible. But let's say, put that aside. Let's just say that would never happen and that's ridiculous and all that stuff. How are you going to defend yourself? There's your own personal defense. I don't know how many gun owners are here, and I'm not going to ask you to tell them. But someone breaks into your house in the middle of the night, and they want to do you harm. They want to kill somebody. They want to rape somebody. You have children. You have grandchildren. How do you plan to defend yourself? When you call 911, the average response time is 18 minutes. I don't know if you ever heard the expression, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. They get there in time to put yellow tape around your body. And a lot of you may not know that they are not legally obligated to protect you. The police show up after the event. They make notes, they document. So how are you going to defend yourself? Because the average response time is 18 minutes, and the response time of my .223 bullet is 3,200 feet per second. So I know what my choice is. They don't want you to have that. And they also have a new talking point. They want common sense gun laws. Common sense gun laws. Now, when has a Democrat ever displayed common sense? Suddenly, they have common sense. Now, the only gun debate we should really be having is which ones to buy and which ones to give teachers. And taking guns away from law-abiding people is like taking cars away from sober people to prevent drunk driving. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not the common sense. Now, let's go now to Sandy Hook with all of that in the background. You have this horrible massacre. Okay, you've got a disturbed kid, and from the minute it happened, the Democrats were out there exploiting this. I don't know how many of you saw this. You had Obama with what I consider phony tears. From the minute this happened, they were exploiting it. They had this, it looks like they had this whole gun control plan just waiting, ready to go. Now, I said they create the problem. So what did they do here? What have the Democrats, the liberals, what have they done to contribute to this problem of someone going into the schools with weapons and killing children? Okay, number one, in the 90s, they created gun-free zones. The gun-free school zone. Every mass killing, with the exception of one, has been in a gun-free zone. The Joker in Colorado, who killed people in the movie theater, drove an hour out of his way to find the one theater that was a gun-free zone. So the gun-free zone is very safe for the killer, because he doesn't have to worry about anybody shooting back. I don't know how many of you saw this newspaper in New York that released the names and addresses of gun owners. You saw that story? Well, guess what? After that, they hired armed security for themselves. So I'm just wondering, why do they need to do that? Why don't they hang out, just put out a gun-free zone sign in front of the paper and save a lot of money? So they created this gun-free zone, which is an invitation to any mass killer. These killers don't want to get killed, at least not until they kill a lot of people first. What else have they done? In the 60s, you know, we're old enough here to remember this, in the 60s and 70s, they closed all the mental hospitals. And honestly, there were some abusive hospitals, but now the pendulum is too far the other way. You have people on the street, you have dangerous people on the street, they're not being treated. You can't even say anything about it without a liberal lawyer suing you. You have these ACLU-inspired laws where if you try to identify somebody dangerous, you're going to be in court. You're going to be sued for defamation. You can't even do that. And the police that people think are protecting them cannot do anything about anybody until they kill somebody first. So these are all liberal policies that they created. And just like with all the other power grabs, what's the answer? What's the answer they give you? Do they want to fix the gun-free zone? No, the only answer is everyone's got to give up their guns. The government can be the only monopoly with power. And we know how that could end up. So, now, Obama appointed Joe Biden to head up this gun panel. I thought we learned that guns and mental illness don't mix. So, well, we know Joe Biden. Okay. So let's talk. How many people saw this press conference yesterday? How many, or you saw parts of it on the news? I love the way they use the children. The Democrats use the children, so have all the dictators of the world use children. You might remember pictures of Saddam Hussein. You know, it's the Democrats and the dictators and the terrorists that like to hide behind children. They didn't have any children there. You know, he said he had letters from children. Where are the letters saying, President Obama, please don't put me in debt? Where are the letters that say, President Obama, Don't make me go to school in a gun-free zone. Where were those letters? Where are the letters that say, President Obama, can I go to the school of my choice? We didn't see those letters. And you may have seen the story of this Georgia woman who protected her kids from an intruder that she had to shoot with her gun. Where are the letters from those kids? You didn't see any of that. So here are the proposals yesterday from President Obama. Here are some of them. An assault weapon ban. Now, does anybody know what an assault weapon is? You don't, because it's a made-up term. They made this term up. There's no such thing as an assault weapon. A baseball bat can be an assault weapon. Your fist can be an assault weapon. Okay. Let's say this. Let's call these defense weapons, because if you're protecting your home and your family, you want the best weapon you can get. You want the most effective weapon you can get. You have to have greater firepower than the person who's attacking you. You need those weapons. You need those high-capacity magazines. You need those AR-15s for the gun people who know what we're talking about. You need those weapons. They're supposed to be destructive. That's the whole point. They also want to get rid of the high-capacity magazines. President Obama wants to limit you to 10 bullets. So what if the criminal has 11? I'm serious. They're going to ration health care and they're going to ration bullets. And how about this? Would any of these things stop a killer from going to a school like this and killing children? No. None of those things would stop it. So if he doesn't have more than 10 bullets at a time, he'll take a second and he'll reload it. How does that change anything? All it does is put innocent people in danger. All it does is put legal gun owners at risk. Okay, now, my favorite executive order. He has a number of executive orders here that a lot of people didn't pay that much attention to because nothing big jumped out at them. But here's what he's saying. He wants to deputize doctors like me to get information on you, to find out if you own a gun. I'm supposed to ask you if you own a gun. I'm a plastic surgeon. Somebody comes to me for a breast augmentation. I need to know if they have a gun. But here's the sinister part of it. You know, they have access to this. Under Obamacare and all these electronic medical records, they have all this information. So they're going to have a database, if people do this, which I won't. But who owns a gun? And you may not know that a registry, for the federal government to have a registry of gun owners, just legal gun owners, is illegal. That is not legal. So this is a way for President Obama to go around the law. And this is another way they use Obamacare, because Obamacare has very little to do with health care. Obamacare is a device to impose the left's agenda on you with rules like this. Or by telling Hobby Lobby that they have to pay for birth control. Telling a Christian organization that they have to pay for morning after pill, abortion, birth control. This is a way for them to impose their will on us. So they can't have a legal registry, but under Obamacare, they can compel doctors to find out if you have a gun, and they have access to that information. They also, in these executive orders, he wants to get rid of the HIPAA rules for this gun issue. So there's no privacy. And if you look at it, you'll see that he wants to establish categories of people who shouldn't own a gun. He's going to establish categories of people who shouldn't own a gun, like maybe people that watch Fox News, or people that belong to the Republican Women's Club. He's going to decide who shouldn't own a gun. It's funny. It's serious, but it's funny. So this is what's buried in these executive orders, and it's a backdoor registry. Now there's more, because think about this. If my patient, if I see somebody and a week later they go out and kill somebody, and I didn't ask those questions, or somehow I didn't identify them, they're going to sue me. That family is going to sue me. It's going to be my fault. So the liberal lawyers will be suing you. So that's another way that they can try to get rid of people like me. And trust me, they want to get rid of me. So these are very sinister things. They're not harmless things. And they're very serious about this. And, I just want to end, and if there's time, if we have questions, I'll be happy to stick around. But I just want to end with this Reagan quote, because it's very appropriate, and I wish we had another Reagan. But, and you may have heard this before, but Ronald Reagan said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, handed on to them to do the same, or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in the United States, where men, and I added women, were free." So I want to thank you for inviting me. We have a lot of work to do here. We have another 3.5 years of this at least. And in my opinion, we have to do everything politically possible to resist and obstruct this and prevent everything from being implemented. That's our job, is to resist it and obstruct it. Thank you.
Does anyone have a question?
I've heard that the government has been stockpiling ammunition. I've heard it from 2 different sources. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, I know that they won't answer any questions about it. The government, our government, the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, has been hoarding. Right now they have 1.2 billion rounds of hollow point ammo. Now, hollow point ammunition is not used for practice. It's used to kill people. So there's about 6 or 7 bullets for every American. And you need to consider the worst. Why do I say that? Because President Obama has a lot of executive orders in place that allow him to detain you without any recourse, to take over the internet, to take over all the media. And many of us who consider, the worst case scenario, think that he wants an excuse to declare martial law, because he doesn't want to leave. These dictator wannabes never want to leave. This is his job for life. This is what they do in all of these banana republics. They do get elected the first time, and here the second time. Hitler was elected. Chavez was elected. But once they get in there, they have no respect for the Constitution, and they do everything they can to stay. So it is a little scary. Now, President Obama's terrorist friend, William Ayers, who's still his friend, who says proudly to the New York Times that I like making bombs, that I'm sorry I didn't kill enough people. When he was, when someone, now this is a story, it's an anecdotal story, I can't prove it's true, but I believe it. Okay, but people that have talked to him are saying that when he was asked, you know, these people want a total revolution, everything, that type of thing. When he was asked, what do you do with the people you can't re-educate? You know, because if you don't agree with them, they want you to go to the re-education camp, which right now is the public schools and the media. But if you have a soft tyranny, and if you really have a hard tyranny, what do you do with the people you can't re-educate? And his answer is, well, we may have to kill about 25 million people. And this is from someone who has killed people. So I believe that. So it's a little scary, it's not what you feel like hearing about here at lunch. But they won't answer why they're stockpiling all this ammo. And it's not what they normally do. And no one's asking any questions. You know, Chris Matthews won't ask about it. So it's a pretty serious thing. Yeah.
What is the state of Fox News at present?
The same.
Can you repeat the question?
What is the state of Fox News at present? There was something on the radio about that they may not be on the radio after.
No, they had a channel on Sirius on XM that they dropped. I don't think it's anything much. No.
We have to do small things, and I don't call it civil disobedience, but you can start bringing
Louder.
attention.
Stand up and talk louder,
Mhm.
please.
What I do, and it's just small little things that all of us can start doing. And I have an artificial hip, and when I go through the airport, I'm always buzzed. And they always say, well, you want to go and do this in private? I don't know. And I stand here like this, and I got my gray hair, and they're feeling my pants and looking all around.
Mhm.
And then I start saying, I don't see my purse. I don't see my carry-on. Where is that? I need to see that. You're supposed to have that be right next to me and in front of me while you're doing all this. And it just makes people start to look at you being patted down and think, you know, everybody's buzzing on and going through. And it makes them stop and look a little bit. Gee, is that really right? Look at this woman being patted down. You know, I think we can do little things like that. It's not going to get you in trouble, but it's just going to make them stop and take a look, you know, at what's happening.
Oh, so you're saying you're purposely asking for a pat down to?
No, not for what they do.
Yeah. Well, you know, listen, there's a rumor under Obamacare you may get your breast exam from the TSA. And men may get their prostate exam from the TSA. Yeah, save money. Any other questions?
So many of our Republican leaders say, but he's really a good man, he has our best interest at heart. He's really has the nation's interest at heart. And with that kind of thinking going on, nobody's suspicious of him. So,
Well, listen, I try to do everything. I think our Republican leaders in Washington are not doing a very good job of educating people about what's going on. That's a whole other talk. Okay? They don't explain it. They don't confront Obama. You're not going to win every fight, but you have a guy like John Boehner. He's got everyone's attention, and there's so many things you could say, and he doesn't do it. Even his fiscal cliff deal, you've got millions of dollars in there for Hollywood. You could object to that. He didn't. Okay. So I personally try to talk to everyone I can, anytime I can, including my patients. And I have Fox News in my waiting room, which some people have never seen. And we get complaints. And if we get those complaints, they have to talk to me. I have to sit down in a room with them, and they have to explain to me what the objection is. And we have a little conversion attempt. We try. You know, we try. You do whatever you can. You know, we kind of joked on Bill Bennett's show that when people fill in their paperwork when they come into my office, they have to fill in the blank of whether they voted for Obama. And if they did, they go right back as fast as possible, and they have to talk to me. You know, he also, you know, in this executive order yesterday, he wants us to decide who's mentally ill, who's mentally unfit to carry a gun. So my answer is, if they voted for Obama, they're unfit to carry a gun. Yeah.
Also, I understand that there's a certain medication that will not be prescribed for people over age 70. I don't have the name of that, but I have heard that in school.
Mhm.
And I was just wondering what his plan is to do with the seniors over 70, and if he has euthanasia.
You mean under Obamacare? Well, listen, here's what they're not telling you, and that our own leaders, you know, are silent. Obamacare saves money by rationing. That means, and there's a formula, and if you're interested in this, you can write this down. You want to read about, it's called the Complete Lives Formula. Now, Rahm Emanuel's brother is a physician who's Obama's advisor. And the system they're going to use is called the Complete Lives System, and that goes like this. Let's say you're 66 years old. There's a certain amount of money you have attached to you. Let's say it's $50,000. Let's say you need a hip replacement. They have a formula that takes into account your age, how many useful years you have left. And if that exceeds the $50,000 you have, you're out of luck. You're not getting it. So you may need life-saving surgery. You're not going to get it. And that's what we mean by a death penalty. And that's what they do in every country that has the socialized system. They deny care. They save money by denying care, okay? Which is different than a system of competition. You know, now insurance companies can be difficult, but there's 5 other ones you can go to. And there's a point where you're going to get what you need. Under Obamacare, you can't even spend your own money. You might have money saved up. You may feel, I want to do this and live 5 more years and be with my grandchildren, and I'm going to sell my house. You can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. So that's called the Complete Lives System. And children under the age of 15 are not important. They're not useful under that system. And the disabled are not useful. So these people are going to get thrown under the bus. They're not going to get care. That's not what you had before. And some bureaucrat in Washington that doesn't know you from a hole in the wall, who doesn't have to abide by the same law, by the way, they all exempted themselves, is going to be deciding this for you.
I want to nominate you for president.
Well, I know
He said he'd like to nominate you
Oh,
for
yeah.
president.
You know what? You have to talk to my boss here. She decides that. She says I'm not home enough. Right now. Yeah.
On Roe versus Wade, I heard the number rising here that 55 million abortions since that ruling. Could you talk a little bit about how that
how it,
How about standing up or
How-
come up here and
how it adversely impacts?
I'm not sure.
Harrodsville versus way protect minorities.
Well, listen,
Vicky's not making
no, I understand. Look, abortion is the, the liberals worship at the feet of abortion. So you're never going to hear anything negative about it. But abortion and Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood was originally started as genocide for the black race. And that's what it's about. And you still have a disproportionate number of black abortions. You would think the black community would get upset about this. But they have allowed themselves to become enslaved on the Democrat plantation. And our Republican leadership is not doing much about it. They need to go into those communities. They need to talk to people. They need to show them there's a different way, there's a better way. They need to do that. I don't know what the problem is. Now, there's other things about abortion you'll never hear about on CNN. A woman that has an abortion in the third trimester has a much higher incidence of breast cancer because of it. And there's a lot of studies on this and there's a lot of data on this, but you're never going to hear about it on ABC, NBC, CBS. In the first 3 months of the pregnancy, the breast cells multiply, proliferate. They're in a certain condition. And when you abruptly interrupt that, it creates an environment that results in a higher incidence of breast cancer. You're never going to hear about that. So, we've turned abortion from something that should probably very rare or never happen at all into just business as usual and a birth control method. And you've got the Sandra Flux out there, the big heroes to the left. It's pretty terrible.
what about Benghazi? What can we do?
Oh, Benghazi.
To stick with-
There's a great example of how the prostitutes totally ignored this. If you go up to somebody on this campus, the higher education, ask them about Benghazi, they'll say, "Who's Benghazi?" It's an old neurosurgeon movie. Yeah, who's Benghazi? They don't even know what it is. They don't even know what it's about. It's a huge scandal. There's a lot of different ideas about what really happened there. Hillary now has to testify. We'll see what happens this time, if she gets sick, if she has the Benghazi flu, because she already, she had a blood clot. Before, when they had that story about a blood clot, in the beginning they wouldn't say where it was or anything, so I thought it might have been like a clotted hemorrhoid or something. But it turned out it's a strange story, because even a blood clot story medically doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, so we'll see what the next excuse is. But we're not forgetting about Benghazi. And they, without the media, it's very hard to pursue these things. You have Fast and Furious, you have hundreds of people died because they transferred guns to the drug cartel. They're giving them guns while they want to take yours away. And you have Benghazi, where it's 7 hours, and they have real time in a situation room in video. Right? When he got bin Laden, he couldn't wait to come out Sunday night at 10:30 and tell you. Right? But Benghazi, he went to sleep. He went to a fundraiser. They won't release any pictures of that. You have that famous picture of him watching him get bin Laden. There's no pictures of Benghazi. So I don't know if we're ever going to get to the bottom of this. But they're obviously covering up something very bad. And if you're interested, there's different ideas about what actually happened, whether they purposely staged that to trade Ambassador Stevens for the blind sheep, you know, and that may be true. So, and by the way, the guy who produced the video that they blamed it on, he's still in prison. So, that's what we're dealing with. Yes?
I'd like to pick your brain on the Fast and Furious fiasco. You know, we were talking about government stockpiling weapons. In my weird mind, would that be a government plan saying that they gave these weapons to drug runners, when actually the reason we never found out about it is because of what really happened to the weapons? What is your feeling on that?
Well, look, there's a lot of different ideas about that. We know they want gun control. They're salivating over the idea that they might be able to take away your guns. It's not going to happen because people are just not going to. You'll see massive civil disobedience if anybody tries that. But they need an event like this Sandy Hook shooting, which for the real conspiracy theorists, you can go to the internet and see that a lot of people don't even think that was completely honest. But we thought Fast and Furious was a way to create this problem of guns, too many guns, and they were willing to have people killed too. You have 300 or 400 people killed, including Brian Terry. And as a result of that, that was going to be the reason for more gun control. Look at all these guns that are just easily going across the border. And this plan that they're rolling out here for gun control was probably the plan they had already for this. But it illustrates how ruthless these people can be. You know, a lot of people don't want to believe it. But they're willing to let or kill hundreds of people to get their way. These people have no respect for life. You have abortion. They have no respect for life. The end justifies the means. Here they're willing to let hundreds of people get killed so they can have their way. A conservative would never do that. Would never allow it. They wouldn't even think that way. So this is my opinion, but these are dangerous people. These are people that want us dead. If we disagree, I know some of you are going to think I'm crazy, but these crazy, radical, left-wing people, if you disagree, they'd rather have you dead. If they could kill you, they would. They'd like to take your guns away so you can't defend yourself. So somebody can come take you away in the middle of the night and nobody can do anything about it. Okay? You know, you can tell all your friends I'm paranoid, but people do that. These governments do that. These dictator wannabes do that. This is what they do. Anybody else? The FEMA, the caskets and stuff? Oh, the FEMA camp. Yeah, see, there's all these FEMA camps that some people think are the re-education camps. So, you know, you have all of these puzzle pieces and waiting for an event. Now, it may never happen, it may be paranoia, but if you look at the history of the world, you know, we went through some of it. You look at the history of civilization. We're the exception. Countries like ours are the exception, not the rule is dictatorships, genocide. That's the usual, that's the default position. And human nature has not changed. So we have to be vigilant. The last thing you want to do is give up your guns. It's no surprise that they want that. It's much messier when everyone's armed. In fact, people have actually worked out the model of what would happen if right now they tried to disarm people, and you would have a couple of 100,000 hardcore patriots who would get into a shooting war, and they would kill every public official they could get to. And our own military would have to choose up sides. And you'd have defections. And it would not be pretty, and it would not be nice and neat, and they wouldn't be able to take the country over very easily, which is why they want to disarm you. It would be very hard right now. You know, the average person that may own a gun is not going to be involved in that, but you have hundreds of thousands of vets, oath keepers. Go read about the oath keepers. People are very serious about defending this country against domestic enemies. Enemies foreign and domestic. And you can read about it, there's a lot written about it, but if they actually try that right now with 300 million guns out there, it's going to be a real war, and the outcome is not clear. So it's not a surprise that they want to try to disarm people.
I think there's a possibility that Obamacare will be thrown out based on the fact that the Supreme Court ruled you had to pay the fine would be a tax.
Right.
That tax.
Yeah,
You know, health insurance based on the fact that they originated that bill in the Senate instead of the House. Listen,
that Supreme Court decision is one of the most disappointing things ever. Nobody ever expected that, and Obama must have blackmailed Robert somehow. I'm not, it's just unbelievable. He went back and forth on that decision. So now the government can tax you if you don't do something they want to do. I mean, think about it. You know, if you don't buy this car, if you don't eat this food, we're going to tax you. It's outrageous. Now, I don't, you know, here's what I think. Here's what's going to happen. We can't get rid of it that way anymore. But this is their plan. Remember, it's designed to fail. It's designed to fail, and it's going to come to a point where people scream that we can't afford these premiums, and I can't get in to see a doctor, and there may be some actors involved too. And Obama, or whoever the Democrat in power is at the time, their response is, well, the government just has to take it all over. It's up to us, it's up to our side to say no. That's the problem. We have to go back to the private sector. We need competition, we need insurance across state lines. So to have that, we need a side, our side, to be able to fight. Right now we have people that are deaf and dumb. There are very few people on our side who even understand how to talk about this. I don't know, it's real, I'm very serious. You know, we've got some good people that, here's who I consider good people. Rand Paul, Rubio, you know, I don't know how many of you have got a chance to hear Ted Cruz. He's great. We've got people, we need a whole party like that. And in the midterm elections, we have to elect as many people like that as we can and throw out as many of these people as we can. Because this is going to be a fight. This is a fight every day. See, this is what Democrats know that Republicans don't know. They get up every day and say, what can I do to screw the Republicans today? Every day it's a war. Every day it's a fight. They're on offense every day. Our side is asleep. They wake up once in a while, maybe 3 weeks before an election. They don't fight back. So even if you didn't have this kind of media, where's the fight? Where's the argument? Where is it? I don't see it. I watch everything. I watch every little thing. I don't see it. So, are we going to get rid of Obamacare? We could get rid of Obamacare if our side will start making the arguments, showing how the government creating these problems, that these problems are because of Obamacare, and we have to get rid of it. That's how you can change it.
Someone came to me and told me that they had worked with security, the government, and drew a picture for me, and I don't know if this person is medical or not. This person told me that they had these, looks like similar to a light pole, but it's, other higher equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that should the people try to revolt or do anything, that they would be able to just turn that on, and within a certain radius, the people would bleed to death. Is that true?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, but they don't have to go that far. Yeah.
Come on up here, we can. Shirley, come on up and use this mic, honey.
Anyway, I know that there's a Michael Steele that's helping John Boehner now. If he's the same Michael Steele that was chairman of the Republican Party and came here ostensibly to help Todd Lilly, he's worthless. And I still support him with that because the Republican Party gave tons of money to the town of Barcelona and gave Todd Lilly zilch. I mean, anyway. But I want to know what Boehner has him as his, well, I don't know if he's working for Boehner, as I understand it, and I think it's the same one.
Mm-hmm. Listen, let me. Yeah, Boehner's not worthless. He does.
I didn't say he was.
No, but he does know how to cry, and so let me just explain this. Let me just explain this, and a lot of you, I'm sure, understand this. Within the Republican Party, we have a little bit of a war here for the last 30 or 40 years, for even longer, between, what we would consider establishment, moderate Republicans, and more conservative Republicans, which today we will call the Tea Party. And we have a war within the party for control of the party, and the moderate Republicans, Boehner, have dominated. And we've had their candidates, McCain, Dole, Romney, and they have done everything they can within the party to exclude the Tea Party people. In fact, Boehner actually took away a lot of committee positions and chairmanships from Tea Party people. So the first thing we have to do is change the party from the inside, because you're going to get this kind of leadership. Now, a lot of these so-called moderate Republicans are also people we call big government Republican. They like the big government. They do want to fight about who gets to spend the money. They don't want to reduce the size of it. They want their chance to spend the money. So our national party right now in D.C. is dominated by those people. And sometimes when you're yelling at the TV, why don't you say this? I do it too. Well, one of the reasons is that many times they're complicit with it. They're okay with it. They're okay with that fiscal cliff deal. So we have a problem within our party. Many of those people don't agree with many of us about what we should do. He's what?
She was asking if Michael Steele is advising saying that it's
Michael Steele?
Steele, same Republican.
You mean the you mean Michael Steele, who's now on MSNBC, Michael Steele?
Yeah.
I don't think he has, I think he's been banished. I don't think he's very involved with the Republican Party. Yeah.
You commented about Obama's approach, or lack of approach towards the Algerian hostages, about the American.
You're talking about right now in Mali. Well, if you look at Obama's foreign policy, he's done everything he can to help Muslim countries. He's armed them. He's supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. We have Muslim Brotherhood people infiltrating our own government. Hillary's #1 advisor is a Muslim whose family is involved with the Muslim Brotherhood. So he's embracing them. He's inviting them in. A lot of people think it's deliberate. It's intentional. He says he has Israel's back, but he's done everything he can to make it difficult for Israel. And he's the zoning commissioner too, telling them where they can build houses. And right now, he's giving Egypt. Now remember, you had a dictator there, that's not so good, but he was friendly to Israel and it was stable. So Obama did everything he could to hand over Egypt to the Muslim Brotherhood that's hostile to Israel. And now they're surrounded. And now he's arming them. He's giving them hundreds of billions of weapons, F-16s. Why? Why are we arming them? So, now when you come to Mali, that's another Muslim uprising. In fact, a lot of them got their weapons from Libya, and a lot of people think that part of that whole Benghazi business was a transfer of weapons to Al-Qaeda. Remember, Al-Qaeda's dead, right? Part of it was Obama facilitating weapons to Al-Qaeda, and now you have different groups like that in Mali. So, I don't know what he's going to do, but if I had to bet, he's not going to do anything that's going to stop him. He's not going to do anything serious that's going to stop that, because he is facilitating, or he behaves like he wants to have all of these Muslim uprisings around the world. And he is behaving as their ally.
And what can we do?
Well, he's not going to listen to me. We have to talk to our own leaders. And they have to have the courage to stand up and do this and talk about it. And you may not be able to do anything about it. Yeah.
I was going to say voting in defense of the NRA, because they do something and they do speak out. And for all the bad press that they get, and from their director or president, whatever their CEO person is, who is always being belittled by the media, at least they do speak out. And it's not just the guns, as Paulette was saying about the stockpile. A gun is no good without any ammunition. And when Obama first came in, he tried to eliminate one of the long-time standing policies of the government, which was because the military is really the most dominant user of ammunition in the United States. And they do a lot of practicing. And all those empty spent shells have always been resold to companies
and then redo them, restock, do whatever they do with shelves, so they get sold individually. But, the second thing that they've done is through the UN, which has the policy to, not allow anybody, anywhere, to have small arms or any type of arms. And, you know, this was one of Hillary's big things, to go to the UN. And of course, if it goes to the UN, then we as members of the UN have to be, you know, in part of that. And again, the NRA was the ones that came in and said, hey, what are you doing to us? So whenever you hear all these things about the NRA, and I'm not a member, but I am a gun owner, don't just think it's the, you know, one side, because they have done some really good politicking, so to speak, and lobbying for the behalf of gun owners, because there's this is a large, complicated problem. And it's not just the assault weapons, because a weapon, as you know, is no good. I mean, all you do is throw it at the robber if you don't have the bullets to shoot your weapon. So it really is a pretty complicated system, pretty complicated problem.
Okay.
We better let our dear doctor,
You gonna let me go?
we're gonna let you go. We don't want to.
I'll stay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to see everyone, shake everyone's hand, and I hope no one had the flu.
That was a real privilege, wasn't it?
You don't have to do
Thank you.
Thanks, Gordon.
Thank you.
Again, we thank Dr. Marty so much for coming, and we thank this lovely white group for coming and being with us. And we're so happy that each and every one of you are here today. And again, let's give Dr. Marty a big round of applause.